Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Introducing your hosts, Kids at Heart.
Hello, world, and all who inhabit it. Welcome to Wrestle Reel, your favorite wrestling podcast, hosted by Chris Anthony Lopez and I, Mr. Nick Molbach. It's gotta be Kane. We are entering the. We're getting pretty close to Halloween here. I'm getting hyped. I was John Cena once for Halloween. I don't know if you've been wrestlers for Halloween before.
I think it was one of those things in high school where I wore just like a John Cena t-shirt and some jean shorts and said I was John Cena.
Yep, that was exactly what I had. A John
Damn.
Cena shirt that had a him with like a weird dollar bill looking thing on it, and I don't know. It was just the coloring of it. It was weird. And
I guarantee I have my shirt somewhere around.
A John Cena hat that I found randomly.
What?
It was not authentic WWE. I had a Hardy Boys one as well. But anyways, we are here to talk about wrestling. We are here. Well, you know, we said that we weren't going to do this, but this really is a very condensed version of it. Let's go on to number one.
We're doing our wrestling recap. I know we said we're not the traditional wrestling show, that we're not going to talk about the weekly shows, but no, there's some big things that at least happen in the world of wrestling, especially with today. We have a big show today, but we'll talk about all that fun stuff as the time comes. But first of all, a program we haven't talked about too much is AEW Dynamite. We don't talk too much AEW on the show, sadly, because, spoiler alert, we're pre-recorded. And we record usually while Dynamite's happening. So we don't get to talk too much about Dynamite. But there are some big things that happen in the world of AEW. Two big things, exactly. One of them, might as well open the show. We're getting Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston at Full Gear in an I Quit match, bro.
I love it. That's so two hard. Very resilient wrestlers right there, if I have ever seen.
Eddie Kingston's been on fire since he joined AEW. And I know there's not too much good to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, especially on the wrestling side. But Eddie Kingston being signed by AEW is like 10 stars, 10 out of 10, genius. All because he got over. That's all. He had the match against Cody.
Yeah, they listen to the fans.
Thank you. And I hate it when AEW does that sometimes, or they listen to the fans, because the fans are not right all the time. And AEW is definitely the smarkier show. I don't want to say smarky. They're the markier show. I mean, you're running a program, a main event program between Chris Jericho, one of the biggest names in wrestling, and a guy that wrestles with his hands in his pockets and jeggings, and his name is Orange Cassidy.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's definitely the markier show, but AEW does some really cool shit sometimes, and this is one of them. Putting Eddie Kingston in this main event program with Jon Moxley, and it was a matter of time, honestly. But especially with this AEW tournament that they actually got going on as well, they have some big names preparing for the big, for the next number one contender post that match. Because let's be real, Moxley will probably come out on top, especially with him getting choked out by Eddie Kingston on Dynamite last week, or the week prior to this past show. But oh my gosh, there's so much cool shit going on at AEW, and the fact that Eddie Kingston's at the crux of it, and he just got there.
Right.
Like, I don't get it.
Let's talk about that tournament just for 1 minute, because I think that it's pretty obvious where it should go. And that does make me wonder who will come out on top for this Kingston versus I gotta say Eddie Kingston, because people are gonna be like Kofi Kingston. If we were live streaming this and then somebody just randomly jumped in the middle of it, they're like, why is Kofi? Is that a Kofi Kingston in the Impact Zone? But
he's in the Dynamite Zone, brother.
But no, I wonder, because I think that the finals of that match or that tournament has got to be Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. So do you I think Kenny Omega should win the tournament. That's just me. Do you want to see Kenny Omega versus Eddie Kingston, or do you want to see Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley more?
Again, bro. Okay, now Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley put on one of my favorite wrestling matches of last year with that lights out match because holy God. What God, it's crazy how much I love that match. And I don't like hardcore stuff. I'll be the first person to say that. Whether it's a high spot or not, I know we're not doing that yet. I don't like hardcore wrestling.
Wow.
I don't like the light tubes. I don't like the barbed wire, the fire. I don't like it. It's not my cup of tea. But that, sir, was my jam. It's the perfect amount of hardcore wrestling. The perfect amount. I loved it. But with that being said, it depends on how they keep building Eddie Kingston. And in the direction that they're going with Kenny Omega, they're making him a heel. And is it the proper time to drop the belt off Mox? I don't think so. Eddie Kingston will stick around in the main event scene for sure. The family, or whatever the hell they're calling their faction, like they're doing some kick-ass things. Butchering the Blade and the Bunny. Can't forget the Bunny. Freaking the Lucha Bros and Eddie Kingston. I was gonna call him Kenny Omega. Eddie Kingston, bro. That's hard. That is so hard. Like they're doing some kick-ass things, especially with making the most out of this pandemic situation. Eddie Kingston is doing exactly that. And I know before Dynamite had started on Wednesday, Joey Janela got pulled because of COVID-19 stuff. So he wasn't facing Kenny. Granted, on what earth is Joey Janela facing Kenny Omega? Or beating Kenny Omega. No disrespect to Joey Janela, but I think we all wanted to see Kenny v Penta on free TV in the next round of that tournament. Hangman beating Colt Cabana, Wardlow handling Jungle Boy, and then we have Hangman beating Wardlow, Kenny beating Penta in a kick-ass match that'll probably be 60 stars because it's the shit. And then, like you said, Kenny v Hangman. And honestly, to add on to what you said, Kenny going over, Hangman joining the Four Horsemen, brother. Dude, that's where you do the Horseman thing at.
Okay.
You do the Shawn Spears, you do the FTR, and you do Kenny Omega, or not Kenny Omega, you do Hangman Page. Bang. And with Tully and Arn Anderson, what else do you need, bro?
Freaking love me some Arn Anderson. And you can also, I would just like to acknowledge to everybody that I was not talking about 2 to 3 minutes ago. Unplugged my microphone, so we're back. But yeah, no, wow, I didn't not see that coming. The Four Horsemen thing, that's interesting.
And I
Shawn Spears especially.
I want to say I mentioned it in our Halloween Havoc 1995 commentary. I want to say I did, which you can catch on the Who Are They Real Entertainment, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and soon to be other platforms. But I want that faction so bad, and it makes so much sense.
You said FTR. I get that completely.
FTR, baby.
That's your traditional. I mean, one of them looks like Arn Anderson, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that FTR, you combine them together, and for our non-AEW fans, we're talking about
the Revival.
Revival, thank you. You combine them together, I'm pretty sure you get the make of Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
That said, moving on to the second topic of AEW, I think I guess we formed a third one out of that tournament. But Matt Hardy's back, continuing his feud with Sammy Guevara, which makes sense. I mean, I don't see how you don't continue that feud. I mean, that was a gruesome injury. And does that bring back broken Matt Hardy? Because he unfortunately landed pretty badly on his head. I don't know. I wonder. It started with broken Matt Hardy, didn't it? Didn't he debut as broken Matt Hardy?
Yes, he did. He debuted as broken Matt Hardy, but in AEW he found a way to go between like V1 Hardy Boys Matt Hardy and broken Matt Hardy like all at the same time, and which is awesome, by the way. Matt Hardy's doing some great character work at AEW.
Always.
But once that happened at All Out, if I'm not mistaken, he it got scary, especially with his wife, Rebby Hardy. She was outspoken about how AEW handled the situation. Got real dicey, and so he just took some time off, just so he can recoup and do his thing. But then he's back. He's gonna keep facing Guevara. Guevara's like, I'm the guy that attacked you X amount of weeks ago. It's like, oh, so we're gonna keep that going now. Because I mean, you're 2 for 2 with injuries with Sammy Guevara. Let's cool it a little bit, all right? Like let's do some slower stuff. Don't do any high spots off scaffolding and ladders. Let's cool it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see Matt Hardy back. How they use him going forward post Guevara, that's gonna be interesting. I know he's been coming out with Private Party, which I love Private Party. Some might say the better Street Profits. I don't want to say that.
Ooh.
I don't want to say that. I'm not committed to that.
He's the man's pacing around the room, people.
So all I gotta say, happy to see Matt Hardy back. Bums me out that he got hurt twice with Guevara. Granted, the first injury was like a little baby one, but the concussion was terrifying, or the concussion in air quotes was terrifying. It was on pay-per-view. People saw it happen. Like, it's not like it was hidden with a ladder or a table spot or some shit. We saw his head bounce off the concrete. It's like, ugh. So that's not something I'm not. I don't want to see it anymore. That stuff. Just cool it.
I agree. Now let's go on to our WWE topics of the week. I think that we have some pretty cool stuff to talk about here.
We're really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Yowie wowie, kids! It's your old buddy, Ray Mulbach. Looks like we have a new friend here to interrupt the middle of the show. Well, I hope that their point is incredibly important, because if not, well, they can run. Bye!
What the hell?
You know, they say all men podcast equally. But you look at me and you look at Nick Mulbach, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another podcaster, you got a 50-50 chance of putting on a good show. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got like a 25% chance of podcasting like me. And then you add Chris Anthony Lopez to the mix, you see the chances of podcasting drastic go up. See, tonight's show, Wrestle Reel, you got a 33 1/3 chance of podcasting. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of podcasting because Chris Anthony Lopez knows he can't podcast like me, and he's not even going to try. So Nick Mulbach, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of podcasting at Wrestle Reel. But then you take my 75% chance of podcasting if we were to podcast one-on-one, and then add a 66 2/3%. I got a 141 2/3 chance of podcasting at Wrestle Reel. Nick Mulbach, the numbers don't lie. And they spell a great podcast tonight on Wrestle Reel.
That's Taylor Cleek. That's Taylor Cleek, brother. That's Taylor Cleek. That's Taylor Cleek up there.
So anyway, how's it going?
Hi. Taylor Cleek,
What
is it?
the
Or is it
running?
Cleek?
Taylor Cleek coming in hot.
How's it going, guys?
Hello,
What's going on, Taylor
Mr.
Cleek?
Creek. Wait, Cleek.
The Big Creek Daddy has come to play. It's so good to see you. It's so good to be on a Wrestle Reel for the very first time. I'm so excited about this.
We're so glad to have one of our friends from Really Scared on the show.
Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, Really Scared.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately, we can't have Connor Breelove with us today, but I'll
God rest
happily
his soul.
take. I'll wait a second. I'll happily I'll happily take the Ragent, if I'm not mistaken.
Excuse me, Encouraging. Thank you very much.
Encouragent. I'm sorry.
Keep up.
It really should be a show.
Keep up.
Actually, I think that the genetic Creek makes more sense right now.
Yo! Oh my god!
And for those of you who don't know,
Creek,
it's Creek,
brother.
but nobody will ever pronounce your name right. So we could say the genetic Cleek as well.
They never do. Sometimes they call me Nick Mulbach. It's happened before.
They have done that before. As you can tell, we look the same. But yeah, so so Taylor's here to talk a little bit of WWE.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of leading into that segment a little bit blind because I knew what was coming. So Chris, if you want to take this WWE talk over again, please, I would appreciate it.
And I have no idea what we're talking about.
Right,
so.
breaking
Well, no,
kayfabe.
because I was like, oh, WWE. Let's talk about the WWE, and then you hit the button finally. I was like, oh, thank God.
I was waiting in gorilla position.
Exactly. We're out here breaking kayfabe, brother. But
It's I know,
I ruined it.
the one thing I think I could be proud of is I did not call Taylor Cleek until we were smack talking for Showdown. So I think it's the one thing I could confidently say.
Oh, have you called me Creek before?
I called you Creek once, but it was on purpose.
Wow.
For
Oh,
Showdown.
okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. I might have been
throwing shade.
Might have been I was throwing some shit.
That's different. That's different.
Yeah, but Cleek, I made sure to get because I was the new guy coming into y'all's space. I had to get everyone's names right, so I was on it. But Taylor, again, thank you so much for joining us on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
But let's.
I was waiting so long for this show to exist, and like this is I've told you guys this before. Like I keep up to date on wrestling by listening to this show. I love this show, so I'm very excited to be a part of it tonight.
Sweet, dude, and we're so happy to have you. But let's talk some WWE wrestling.
Yes.
And I mean, post WWE draft that happened, 2 weeks ago as of this episode, we saw some shakeups in regards to people being on certain shows and everything. But I think the big story, or one of the bigger stories to come out of the draft, was the New Day breaking up. And we had talked about it briefly a few times already, and I don't like talking about it because it makes me sad. But we got to see them have one last match last Friday on SmackDown, and we got to see Xavier and Kofi sans Big E. Granted, he was at the Thunderdome, brother, so we got to see him for a little bit. But I don't think we really talked about it as a whole. Taylor, like I said, you just got back. You're getting back into wrestling slowly but surely. Are you familiar with the New Day at all?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not that behind. I know New Day.
Word.
And the last time I was really like keeping up on wrestling week to week was during the big Kofi singles run to the championship.
Oh,
yeah.
And it was a beautiful thing, man.
Beautiful.
I loved that. I loved seeing him finally getting his due and having that big moment over the evil vegan Daniel Bryan. So yeah, I'm very aware of New Day, and as a former retail employee, I can tell you I've sold more than one box of Bootios.
Have you eaten some Bootios?
I've never eaten Bootios though, so I can't give you like a flavor review or anything like that. Sadly,
one of these days we'll get our Bootios on Wrestle Reel, and we'll have to let you know. But how did you feel when you found out that they were breaking them up, that they were splitting apart Xavier and Kofi on Raw and Big E onto SmackDown?
That was shocking because, like, as far as teams go in WWE, New Day is a very distinct outlier, in that they insist on never breaking up, and they've really gone a lot further than any team. I would. Does any team lasted as long as New Day? Do you know? I can't think of any that would.
We do have the record, actually.
I can't think of
a thing they announced.
I can't think of any that would come close. And so like storyline, right? They split up in a way where it's like it's not inconceivable that they won't form back together. In fact, it's inevitable that they'll form back together.
Yeah.
And it'll be a huge moment when they do. I'm New Day, I feel like has had to have acquired a lot of backstage pull at this point. And so like if they weren't ultimately down with this, it probably wouldn't have happened. Like at the end of the day, these are some of their biggest stars. They push the merch. They're this huge entity in the WWE. So hopefully they're cool with it. It's a bummer to see, but also, you gotta try something different in wrestling once in a while. Can't rock the same thing again and again and again. So they had to do it one way or another. I think the New Day reunion will be huge. But I'm curious so like, what's the vibe with this going forward? Is this like a Big E singles push?
One would hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because I feel like that's incredibly overdue, is it not?
I mean, after the Kofi stuff, I think all of them show they have potential to do big things.
Yeah.
But Kofi's was just like forever. It took forever to get off the ground, like 10 years in WWE just to go nowhere, just to be this close to title shots, not get them. But they were playing it off as if, like, yeah, Big E's the next big one. And there were even rumors, I think we might have talked about this in the show last week, Nick, where like there were rumors of Xavier floating between shows, being that bridge between Kofi on Raw and Big E on SmackDown, which would be cool, but they won the tag. The New Day won the SmackDown tag belts, and they got drafted to Raw, which yuck. And then the Street Profits, who were the Raw tag team champions, got drafted to SmackDown, and they did this little belt exchange thing. It was really dumb,
Silly.
But Nick, I'm curious because I mean, I cried about it enough when we talked about it last week, and when we were even doing our I want to say our draft preview, we talked about the potential of them breaking up, especially with the Big E push. And I was like, no, that's not a thing. No, it was like quivering in my boots. But especially after this SmackDown and Raw, like they're making it sound like it's a permanent thing, but it's not a permanent thing. They're definitely giving off those vibes, though.
Well, see, first of all, when we were doing like our draft talk, I don't even really think we ever thought about the New Day because it was just Big E because Kofi was hurt and then Kofi came back and then out of nowhere, there's Xavier on the draft night, the first draft night.
Yep.
They brought the New Day back and obviously they went. Did you lose me?
Not anymore. Please.
Am I here?
You're here.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I'm
Nick with his broken
glad that the New Day. Am I in though?
No, you're here. No, you're here. Yeah,
You're solid.
Okay. Because my internet just like crapped on me for a second there. So,
no, you're fine.
I don't know. I always thought that like your best Raw after WrestleMania moment, and this is going to break your heart, was turning Big E heel and having Xavier be his mouthpiece because they were jealous of Kofi's success. And they never even went that route. So
They never did it, yeah.
Ouch.
Because I think that though Xavier Woods, don't get me wrong, has the potential to do something eventually with his career, I think that he is an incredible mouthpiece for the New Day. It'll happen eventually that they'll be back together. I don't know what for. I mean, like, I don't understand really. Like, you got to imagine that once they get them back together, that the run will continue to be a lengthy run. Because it's like, to me, right now in this moment, there is no reason to turn any of them heel.
No.
Like, but my issue was I would have moved Big E to Raw and kept Kofi and Xavier Woods on SmackDown because there's one big, important, large structure that stands in the way of a Big E Langston push. I called him Big E Langston. I know. That was my mistake.
Throwback.
And his name is Roman freaking Reigns. And
Vintage.
Can't wait for The Rock to come back and face against him at WrestleMania. Although I hear that that's actually not going to happen now, which is good.
Was that a rumor? Was that in the rumor mill?
That was in the rumor mill, unfortunately.
There's no way they do that with no fans. There's no way.
But like,
oh yeah, wow.
I don't know at this point. I wish that Big E would be the guy. I just don't think so. And it has nothing to do with Big E. It has everything to do with the problem being that for the first time, this is controversial. For the first time, I think that they are actually booking Roman Reigns well. And the issue is with that is that when you're booking Roman poorly, there's nobody that stands in his way. When you're booking Roman really well like they are, there is absolutely no freaking chance in hell that you can take the title off of him right now. Yeah. And like Otis ain't beating him. That good old Money in the Bank masked luchador that's on Raw. I I know. I'm sorry, Chris. It's just like, it's the worst situation. Because here's my thing is that, like, I think that if you were going to push a New Day member against Roman that can take a loss, I would do Kofi.
Oh yeah.
Because he can take that L because he's won the championship. I just don't think that. I think that feeding Roman or Big E to Roman is just not going to be the best thing for his career. It would be the same thing if Keith Lee went over to SmackDown. It would be the same thing if other wrestlers, like if Drew McIntyre went over to SmackDown, if he lost the title. If it's just like there's so many people that you could think would, like, if Undisputed Era debuts on SmackDown, I'm gonna be pissed because there goes Adam Cole's chance of ever becoming WWE champion because Roman Reigns is the champion and he's the big dog.
The thing with I mean, I agree with you on everything you just said. Like that Roman, I didn't even think about it keeping Kofi and Xavier on SmackDown. It makes so much sense, and I don't know what determines who goes on what show, but it was weird seeing not only obviously them splitting up, but them keeping Big E on SmackDown because, like you said, Roman's your champ, Roman's your top dog. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. I don't expect him to go world title anytime soon. Big E, I mean, keep him. Because who's on that show? Sami Zayn. There you go. Intercontinental title. If you want to push him towards a belt, IC belt's the way to go first. Then do your world title, and then everything's gonna be fine. But until then, Roman's gonna have his hands full with his cousins, his real life cousins, the Usos, with Jay, and if Jimmy comes back anytime soon, that's if they don't form that faction that people have been talking about like crazy.
They will.
Yeah, I feel like it's inevitable, and there are rumors it's going to happen at Hell in the Cell this weekend. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. But SmackDown has a lot of other things going forward as well, and not just Big E. And we all wish Big E the best of luck against the man that is Roman Reigns. Good luck, man. That man's not losing that belt anytime soon.
No.
But someone that may come back and attempt to take it off of him. It's Goldberg.
Thank you.
I did that.
We was cringing to play it.
I did that one. It was all my fault.
My God. So just a little context. Before Roman Reigns got taken off the shelf before Roman Reigns got taken off the shelf with COVID-19 and his battle with his leukemia. Well, at least his immunocompromised body. At WrestleMania, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna wrestle Goldberg. That ain't a move." Because it's supposed to be Goldberg versus Roman, spear versus spear. Yeah, brother. And then Braun Strowman took over, and we saw how that panned out. But
sorry, that was my disgusted face.
I'm like, is he okay? But Roman now came back. Beat the hell out of everybody in his way. He wrecked everyone, and he's leaving with the title. But now Goldberg's like, Now they got Goldberg teasing the comeback, and now I am shitting bricks.
Stop. Nope.
What's the point? You know what?
Spear versus spear, brother.
Yeah, or like top guy in his prime versus an old grandpa. Like I don't care that they got the same finishing move. You're trying to tell me that this fella's on the same level as your WWE champion, or is he is he Universal champion? Or I can't keep it up.
He's the blue universal champion.
He's the blue champ. Drew is the red champ.
You're telling me the champion of the universe could lose to this guy who hasn't gone regularly in like 20 years. Come on.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I needed to.
I said it and he heard it. Like, what is there to gain? Okay, Goldberg wins, and Roman Reigns looks like an absolute dunce. He's a geek.
I don't even want to think about that.
Goldberg loses and he beat up an old man. Like, I don't understand. What's there to gain here? But the thing with Goldberg's so weird is like he was gone for such a long time. Now they keep bringing him back. It feels like you didn't have to have like a way to end Goldberg's career, but now it feels like you do have to have a weird like final statement on Bill Goldberg. And maybe this is it. Like he gets speared into oblivion. Like Goldberg was the one who was next all along. And after that, he never comes back. Maybe that's the play. I don't know.
Or he could face Baron Corbin in a retirement match.
The King.
No!
Just like Kurt Angle, just feed everybody to Baron Corbin.
Oh God, I always forget that's how Kurt Angle retired.
You do. I was gonna say you do know that, right? That Kurt Angle's final match was against Chad Gable, Baron Corbin. Yeah, it's terrible. Shelton Benjamin, Baron Corbin. It's ugh. Gross.
Shorty G.
Yeah, shout out to Shorty G.
Get that name out of here.
But
fucking Shorty G, dude.
Goldberg coming back. My first question is why. My second question is how, and my third question is it's not really a question, more of a statement. It's what the fuck.
Well, your next question is who is next?
I love what you just said, Taylor. You're like Goldberg's gimmick for the last 40 years, the last 30 years is gonna come back and bite him in the ass in one last match. Roman's like, you were next. And he throws the mic at his dick. And
yeah. That's it. That's the same thing as like, this is my yard, you know? Like that, like if that's the play, I mean, look, if that's the play, Goldberg comes back and like gets his ass speared to death and he never comes back again. Like, okay, I can kind of get into that. If that's the move, it's like we want to finish Goldberg's career. How do we do it? We establish that Roman Reigns is the spear master of all spear masters, and that's it. Like, it's unnecessary, but okay. I'd rather see that than Big E get a singles push and then like not prevail in the end, you know?
Yeah. Nick, you were the one that told me about Goldberg because I didn't catch the Goldberg bit on SmackDown last week. I probably wasn't. I was in Kansas doing football, high school football. But what was your thought process just looking at Goldberg's name and SmackDown in the same sentence?
Actually, guys, I was an extremely respectable person. I am now going by Biggie M. Man, it doesn't make any sense. Well, first of all, let's face it right here. What on earth are they doing even just giving Goldberg these matches? Because if everybody remembers correctly, last time they were in Saudi Arabia, Undertaker had what he considered the worst match of his career against Goldberg.
Yeah.
One of the last matches of his career against Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg got knocked out.
Yeah.
Whoops.
It's like, you know, my God, like give me like Goldberg versus Titus O'Neil. Just give me somebody that's just so unnecessary. That's my thing. Is that's what we're gonna do for the rest of these old guys' careers. Is we're just gonna feed them into matches against people that don't matter. So we got Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle. We got Goldberg versus Titus O'Neil. You know, who just got randomly thrown into a bit with the Hurt Business, and then was like, nope. Let's do Jeff Jarrett and Elias. Just kidding. It's just like it's so bad. This is getting so old. And like, what did I read when I read that? I went, for the love of God, hopefully he is going after Braun Strowman. That's all I'm thinking. It's like, you know, there is nothing to be. These past two shows for Raw and SmackDown have been so unnecessary. It's not even funny because they've barely done anything. They have established some superstars to each brand, but let's see what we got right here. We got a bunch on SmackDown. We got a bunch of Raw superstars facing against SmackDown superstars to open SmackDown.
Yeah. And
what do we got on Raw? We got friggin' Otis showing up on Raw. So it's just like, it's so, and was that to give Heavy Machinery one last final hurrah? Because like,
yeah,
to give Tucker's career one last final hurrah. It's just like, to be overshadowed by Otis for the 300th time.
Senior Tucky.
I just, man, I don't know. It was so, you know what would have been really ballsy of the WWE to have set up this Uso versus Reigns match and then have had Braun Strowman win. Of course Roman Reigns is going to win this match. What the hell was the point? And then you throw Goldberg in to confuse everything for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It just,
You add Goldberg to the mix. Chances of a good show drastically go down.
Let's here. I know he'll never step into the WWE ring ever again, but give me Scott Steiner versus Goldberg versus Psycho Sid in what is probably just the worst fought match ever. And let's just have just the worst wrestling match of all time, and have Steiner versus Goldberg, battle of the old men who can barely move. It's oh my God, I just get Goldberg away from my WWE. That's all I can say.
Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the last play. I mean, how many more could there possibly be? Guy is a silver fox. You know what I'm saying? Like,
how do you know he's bald?
It's on the chin. Do I need to play the clip again? Do you need to see? Or you take my word for it?
I've seen it all right. I didn't earn that one. But it's just like it's getting so old.
Yeah.
Like
Quite literally.
Oldberg. That's what it is. It's like
Oldberg.
WWE thinks it works every once in a while. But to have it continue and continue and continue to happen over and over and over again, and by God, I love Sting. But I wonder, had he not gotten injured and had that career-threatening injury, how much would they have pushed the past up instead of pushing these younger wrestlers? That's the issue that I have, is that like WWE unfortunately knows what makes them money. And I will always go back to this example. I hate Brock Lesnar, and I hate seeing Brock Lesnar win now. I get it, but I went to a live show where there he is. And he's staring at me like, what the hell did you just say? He looks like an alien right now because you have it so close. I went to Raw, and to open the show, here comes Brock Lesnar, and I'm going, yeah, fuck yeah. That's the issue, is that like it works. That's the unfortunate thing, is I can bitch about how much I don't care about. I was marking out to seeing JBL come out, which is probably a problem. But it's just like there's a difference between where I'm sitting and where I'm sitting in the stands. And that's the unfortunate thing about these legends, is that, but it's weird though, because there are legends that still have it, and you're wondering, why are they not pushing them? Like, it's whenever Team 3D comes back and they barely do anything with them. They stick him in a feud with Enzo and Cass, which is never going to go anywhere because, within a week, Enzo and Cass are going to be split up anyways, because WWE doesn't give a crap about their tag teams. So why are we talking about Goldberg still? I'm sorry.
We sent you down a dark path.
It's my fault.
You got mad.
Goldberg, it's so... I don't need to see Goldberg in another title match. I will go as far to say I do not need to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in another title match in the WWE, no matter how much he's got it. I'm sorry.
I agree.
You could tell me Stone Cold Steve Austin could wrestle again, which he shouldn't. Edge is a different story. I don't know why. He just is. But like,
because you grew up with him.
That's probably it. Honestly, that's probably it. But it's just like, I don't need to see it. There will probably be a time where Edge comes back and he wins the WWE Championship in that spear versus spear match. And I go, oh, well, I'm talking about Goldberg versus Edge. But there is going to be a time where I probably feel this way about Edge as well, is all I'm saying. Randy Orton's different because Randy Orton is around all the time. And Edge could be around all the time, but Brock's not around all the time. The Rock's not around all the time. I would say the Gok because I'm just rhyming with Brock and the Rock, but Goldberg's not around all the time. It's just like,
correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't Rock kind of gone on record and said he's done? Do you believe that at all?
No,
I don't believe it.
He has one more.
You think one definitive last match
against Roman?
Roman, yeah.
And Undertaker. It's like I get it. Undertaker. I grew up on Undertaker. Yeah. Don't need to ever see him wrestle ever again because his career means so much. You know, bringing back these guys does not make their careers have any more validity when they were around originally. Just saying.
No, I mean you're hitting the nail right on the head, and I'm so glad you mentioned at least some former and some current Raw superstars, because there are some that are currently on Raw that are really going through it. And just to tie it back into SmackDown for a second, we know who the SmackDown hacker is.
What?
Yeah, we know who the SmackDown hacker is. Finally, we got a confirmation, and just so I can mention this for a second, Retribution on Raw this past Monday, they faced off in a 8-man tag match, and it was the Hurt Business versus Retribution, the 4 male members of Retribution. They lost that match, and shortly afterwards, the Fiends showed up and beat all of them except the Hurt Business, because the Fiends like, I'm not gonna mess with y'all, I'm gonna mess with these guys, and he did put the Hurt on the Retribution. And then later in Raw, Mustafa Ali's cutting a promo post-loss, by the way. He's like, "Oh, that's why I'm the SmackDown hacker."
What?
And everyone's like, "What?" This we haven't seen a SmackDown hacker in months. The last thing we saw him do was in April. So it's 6 months later. You've done maybe one thing of note, and that was with Mandy Rose and Otis and Sonya Deville and Dolph Ziggler at the time, that program. So now you want to call out the people that are getting all the love because there are people that don't get shine. Don't try to spin this on me, Mustafa Ali. I ain't rocking with this. Mustafa Ali's out here. I get it, right? Mustafa Ali been in WWE for a few years now. He's been squandering in the mid-card, struggling, and it put him in the leadership position for Retribution. Oh, okay. We came on this show, Nick, and we said this could be a breath of fresh air. This could be the jolt to the chest that not only Retribution needed, but Mustafa Ali needed. And in their first match as a group, you had them lose clean, bro.
That's good shit.
Stomped by Retribution, by freaking the Fiend. Bray Wyatt showed up, and he beat all 4 of them. On what earth? I get it. The Fiend is like the shit. Like he's a tweener now. Apparently, he's not a heel anymore. He's riding the line, so he beat the heels his ass. And it's like, what? And he's out here mandible clawing every person in sight. And it's like, what is happening, bro? Nick, we had talked about this multiple times. Like, and bam, they gave the impression that they already gave up on Retribution.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
It's
for sure.
They gave the SmackDown hacker thing to Mustafa Ali probably to be like that. Oh shit, we had to lose. Have him be the hacker from 6 months ago. Then no one's mentioned since on the opposite show.
That's cool that he can hack. Like, I like Mr. Robot too, but if he ain't winning matches, why do I need to give a shit about that?
The first match.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying this. They have absolutely no clue what the hell to do with them already. Want to know why? Because that girl on the end, on the left, is not in the group anymore.
Oops. Who's that? We don't.
Mercedes Martinez is not in Retribution anymore. So what the hell was the point?
They don't want you to remember.
No clue. they have no Mia Yim's not going to be in the group anymore. She's going to be going around with Keith Lee. I guarantee you within the next 5 months, they will lose another member. And then Husky Harris and Michael McGillicuddy will join, and CM Punk will take over Retribution, and then they won't exist. And then CM Punk will beat Randy Orton at WrestleMania, and then they'll never exist anymore. Okay, it's just like it is the most ridiculous thing. They have no clue what they're doing. All these months of build up for they had 2 different things now we know of that they had months and months of build up for. So can I just let me explain to you where we're at, Taylor, with Retribution. I know that you've been listening to this show a lot.
I only know anything about Retribution from hearing your recap.
I'm just letting you know that we don't even do Retribution justice because it doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna go over the timeline of Retribution. I obviously don't want to take too long on this, and I don't want to obviously take up the whole time talking. So let's start off with this. We got a bunch of masked figures come in and invade wherever it was that they were doing Raw at the time.
The Performance Center.
Yes, at the Performance Center. So they go in and they attack. And then we're like, oh. So then, it continues on, it continues on, and continues on. And then this happens.
Good.
We're like, what the fuck just happened? So then that continues on, it continues on, it continues on. And the 2 on the right come out, and they're about to attack Mustafa Ali. And then Ali turns around, and he's like, nah, I'm the leader. And then
it was me, Austin. It was me the whole time.
And then, son of a bitch. And then I was like, oh, well, okay. For some reason in the back of my mind, I saw this coming a little bit. They better not give him a mask. Oops. Anyways, so then they continue on, and they continue on. And they're actually building somewhat of a rivalry versus the Hurt Business. Do I know who the hell the heel is in this situation? Not a single bit. Anyways, so they're continuing on, and then they have this match. And they lose the match. All the audio listeners, they lost. And I'm going, oh my gosh. It's like here's my issue, Chris. And Taylor, obviously. But Chris is obviously in this with me that like literally Retribution. This show should just be called Wrestle Retribution Reels. Because we always go off on these tangents about Retribution. Here's why, though. I do think in about a month, Retribution will not be a thing anymore. I'm going to give it a month.
Wow.
But a loss. Okay, so here's the issue that I have. I think that what they did with Bray Wyatt was to give the Twisted Bliss and Bray Wyatt thing front and center. Give it a month. Bray Wyatt will be the champion. Hopefully, I love Bray Wyatt. I will get into Bray Wyatt in our second segment, which we probably should get to.
The Alexa Bliss team up thing is actually really good.
It's good for him for sure.
And gives you something to do.
Now, that I think was just to showcase them that they're on Raw. He's here. Here's the thing. I'm not going to say that they're burying Retribution if they lost to the Hurt Business. Because guess what? We'd be sitting here. Here's how this would be going. Though I don't think that they have a single bit of direction to go with Retribution, especially since he was like, oh, I'm the SmackDown hacker, LOL. Even though I did say that was the case, or that was going to happen. We'd be sitting here going, oh my gosh, the Hurt Business did so great. And then they recruited Cedric Alexander, and they dominated Raw Underground when they were on it. Bobby Lashley's the United States champion, and their first match as a team, they lost. We would be doing the exact same thing right now. It's just that Retribution is on the other end of it, and they have no clue what to do with their Retribution right now. At least with like Hurt Business, you could go tag team champions. You could go Bobby Lashley as the WWE champion at some point, possibly. T-Bar ain't going to be the WWE champion. And if T-Bar is the WWE champion, I will never do the show again. Sorry.
They got the rapper in Retribution.
Who?
Sorry, somebody else talk, please.
And Slapjack.
Oh, Slapjack. We love Slapjack.
My God.
So this thing already reeks of Vince McMahon, right? This feels like a Vince thing. Because this feels like an angle that was like come up with overnight, and then there was like no long-term planning. The whole like Mustafa Ali's the hacker feels so much like Hornswoggle was the mystery GM of Monday Night Raw many years ago. It feels like that reveal where like they came up with it way after the fact when everybody stopped caring or thinking about it. And went, hey, remember that? Here's what we were planning the whole time. Like this whole thing, right? It was like wrestlers, they dress up in black, they wear masks. I could just hear Vince McMahon being like, it's like wrestling Antifa, you know? Like that's what it is, right? What if we had Antifa on the show and then they lost? Like that's what it sounds like.
The
to
black
me.
people. Like at the time when Retribution was on TV, the riots were happening because of what was going on in our country in regards to black people. And then freaking Retribution showed up and we're like, they're just destroying the set like how Nexus did. It did that for weeks. And then they wear masks. One of them is black though, so it's not a race thing. And then they fucking lose to the Hurt Business. They could have taken an L. Shelton Benjamin could have taken a damn pin.
Yeah.
Really though, he could have.
Why should anyone give a shit about this goofy group if they can't even win their first match? That's just plain old-fashioned.
This
wrestling.
is how they look. Sorry.
I can get down with the masks and like this weird gimmick, but they gotta win. And they show up, and after all this hype, they're like, okay, it's time for them to have their first. Also, it's just silly for them to have a contested match in the first place. I know you guys went into this because I listen to the show all the time, but like the idea of like this group that shows up and like, we're gonna beat everybody up, we're gonna break everything, and you gotta give us a contract and give us a job because then you'll save money because we'll stop breaking stuff. And WWE's like, yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Like nothing about it makes sense. It's ill-conceived. It's shallow. And they're already giving up on it. And Mustafa Ali deserves so much better, which seems like the energy of this group's existence is, hey, man, we really dropped the ball on Mustafa Ali. So he's going to have an entire storyline about like taking control if he's a hacker or if he's a leader of a revolutionary group. But they fucking lost. So they already gave up. So to me, this is a classic McMahonism. And it's an ill-conceived idea with no long-term planning. Which is it's a lot of modern WWE, I suppose. It happens, but embarrassing after weeks of hype, which I've only gotten through your show. So for you to tell me that they lost, that's embarrassing. Why would I care? Who would care? They're a bunch of geeks.
They are geeks.
Geeks in masks.
Two things I want to mention before we go to our second count.
Yeah.
One, imagine how cool it would have been if Retribution beat the Hurt Business and they're beating the shit out of the Hurt Business after the match, and then Mustafa Ali gets on the mic, like I'm gonna take Raw or make WWE whatever the hell because I'm the guy that was messing with SmackDown, so I'm gonna come here and do the whole gimmick. Then the hacker thing comes in, bang, perfect. Fuck the Fiend. You don't need the Fiend in that segment. You don't.
Yeah.
You put him in there just to shoehorn him in. Fine. And then Nick, I actually disagree with you about something you said about Retribution. I don't think they'll last a month. They'll make it to the end of the year.
Okay.
They might make the Rumble if they're lucky. Because they got to fight the WWE system and participate in one of their biggest matches of the whole year.
And drive ratings for the brand and company.
Exactly.
And collect paychecks.
But let's talk about things we actually like, or maybe even dislike. But it's time for our second count on the show. Let's do it. So we have Taylor here. He's the co-host of Really Scared every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern on this very YouTube channel and all the social media. Go ahead and watch that show. It's great. Great show. So we're going for the crown. We're going for that crown that y'all got. Got all the cool shit over there. That's going to be us soon. Bro.
Oh, you're taking my crown?
Yeah,
I didn't know that was what's going on.
I
didn't know I had the crown.
At the second annual WattCon, it's gonna be me, brother.
Coming to WatCon, baby.
Uh-oh.
You got a 22/6 chance coming to WatCon too.
No, I want to go to WatCon too. But look, since we thought like we're gonna have to really scare a boy on, let's talk about some scaredy boys in professional wrestling.
It's Halloween.
It's a real win, baby. We have a lot going on here at the channel, and might as well. Wrestle Reel did Halloween Havoc last week, so let's do some spooky gimmicks here with us. And Taylor, since you're the guest, by all means, you should go first. Is there a spooky gimmick that you would like to mention to spark some combo?
Well, look, if I'm going first, I feel like I should get the most obvious one out of the way.
By all means.
Which, of course, is The Undertaker. You know, we may as well start this thing off with talking about one of them that's good, because most of them, there's many spooky gimmicks. I don't think most of them are good. But The Undertaker is the ultimate in this concept, in this conversation. And what's fascinating is that The Undertaker should be one of the terrible ones. It's the ultimate credit to Mark Calloway, broke kayfabe there, that this character has had any staying power and has become such a pillar of pro wrestling culture and history. The Undertaker debuts as basically a zombie. He debuts as Kane the Undertaker, right? He's got this stupid name, and he's just a zombie. He's Frankenstein. Like, he's a silly monster gimmick. If you saw somebody try it now, you would roll your eyes. No pun intended. You'd roll your eyes, and we'd laugh about it. It'd be embarrassing. But he found a way to make a gimmick of where, like, and there's such a complex, like, backstory and lore. Mm-hmm. And we can kind of, like, grandfather Paul Bearer into this conversation, too. Because
if you were going to, I was going to.
Yeah, because Paul Bearer should have been terrible. His name's Paul Bearer. Like, his first and last name is Paul Bearer. And he wears this makeup, and he has this big goofy voice. And yes! Yes.
That's one of mine. I'm sorry. I could not.
Yeah, on paper, none of it should work. It should be, you know, some true like wrestle crap, but it's not. It's one of the most legendary, successful things of all time. It's managed to reinvent itself for years. I mean, there's gimmick matches built around it. You know, this guy's come out and buried people alive. He's one of the all-time greats. And at the end of the day, he's an undead sorcerer. Like, what? That's what I love. And we'll get into this. Is going to be true for every single one we discuss. But like the implication of that guy, that character, that phenom, but at the end of the day, he's like, yeah, show up to the Staples Center and beat up a guy for cash. Like the logic breakdown is so silly. He's like, I come from a different realm. I've died and lived many lives, but I want to beat you up, Triple H, and I want to do it at the Quicken Loans Arena. It's so funny, right? But it works. We don't question it. And like, that's the suspension of disbelief of wrestling always. But like, it's never been more at play than with Undertaker, who's the all-time. I mean, that was my favorite wrestler growing up. Like, people had their Rocks and Stone Colds, but Undertaker was mine. The last couple of years notwithstanding, not great. But who's had a more consistent and lengthy run than this guy? And he had the silliest gimmick to boot. Hey, you're a zombie who wears like a purple tie. Who can make that work? Yeah, you're his purple zombie. Who can make that work? Mark Calloway made that work, and he became arguably the greatest character and gimmick of all time.
Yeah.
And that's a spooky gimmick right there.
That's actually a great way to sum that up. It's the best character in wrestling history.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can say that in confidence. Like, I could totally agree with you. Like, what Mark Calloway did with The Undertaker is it's for lack of a better word, phenomenal. Like, he's done some incredible things to that character. He's gone through so many different iterations of The Undertaker.
He was a biker for some reason.
He was a biker.
And it worked.
He was a minister of darkness. He crucified Stone Cold Steve Austin on Raw one time.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. The things that The Undertaker has done, and he's still relevant 30 years later. If Survivor Series next month, it'll be the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker. And that is insane that he has never not been the Undertaker.
Yeah.
He's been a redheaded dude from Texas, but he wasn't the Undertaker. Like from Survivor Series 1990 all the way to now, the Undertaker will forever be synonymous as a pillar of WWE, but one of the best characters of all time. And Paul Bearer is a big part of that. I'm so glad you mentioned his
For
name
sure.
because
Yeah.
that was the mouthpiece of the Undertaker. Like he was the mouthpiece behind it.
Yeah.
He didn't, I don't remember the first time the Undertaker spoke. Because Mark Calloway became a stud on the mic the second they gave it to him, and
He was good.
I credit Paul. I think The Last Ride that's on the network, which I gotta watch again because it was so good. Great documentary for those that haven't seen it. But like Paul Bearer is a big part of that, especially in the early years of the Undertaker, before throwing Mankind off of the cell, and like and that was in the late '90s, and then here we are 20 years later, still talking about the Undertaker.
Mark Calloway. Mean freaking Mark Calloway.
Damn right. But Nick, did you have a follow up to probably the best character of all time?
I had to start it off big.
Not to the Undertaker. I always think of the Boogeyman when I think of like scary gimmicks or spooky gimmicks. I mean, like I'll throw two your way, just two other companies. Yeah. One did not work, and one of them did work, and now he's Joseph Parks. But the Abyss was a good, not necessarily spooky gimmick, but played off the whole Mankind thing, and Mankind obviously is somebody that you want to throw on this list. But I always enjoyed watching. I always enjoyed watching Abyss. But I'll give you one that didn't work out that I would have loved to have seen what was going to happen with it, and that's Seven from you guys might not know who this is. It's Dustin Rhodes in WCW.
Oh God, yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
That's some weird shit, more or less than anything else.
You can just say Goldust, dude. You can just include Goldust.
But Goldust, Goldust for sure too is just like a weird ass gimmick. But yeah, Seven was one that I just was incredibly intrigued by, more or less. And then Dustin Rhodes came out and was like, "You're gonna see me in this stupid shit every week," and blah blah blah. And broke kayfabe. It was like, if you don't want me to dress like this, give me a hell yeah. It was just stupid, and like they never went through with what Seven could have been. But I thought that those promos that Seven delivered were incredibly odd, more or less. I mean, like I could say like Phantasmo or something like that. We don't like him. Damien Demento, we were talking about earlier.
Damien Demento
actually has a match with the Undertaker on the first Raw.
Really?
Yeah. It's just okay. I'll go with the one that's really obvious to follow up with, and it's Kane.
It's Kane.
It's got to be Kane. That used to be my name, and then I changed it to Biggie M. But Kane is synonymous with the horror gimmick. He split Undertaker in half and became the Kane of Kane the Undertaker. That's Kane. Oh, whoever Hulk Hogan was yelling at the top of the mountain, was that him?
It's the Wall, brother.
Or the Wall. Thank you. The Wall is another great scary guy. The Yeti. Yeti's number one.
The Yeti. But he's
Chris,
a mummy.
Chris, who do you got, my friend?
Kane synonymous with the Undertaker.
Let's not sleep on Kane, dude. We should talk about that.
Kane. Okay, so See No Evil is first of all your first. That's a scary wrestling gimmick that transcended into a horror movie.
That's the next movie we review. The next horror movie we review.
I did want to say kudos to you for not picking Cena. I feel like that was the obvious one to talk about for our third fall.
Yeah.
You didn't go that route, so kudos to you. However, when and if inevitably when you talk about See No Evil, I absolutely would love to come on for that episode too.
Hell yeah, Probably.
But
Kane is a character that, like you said, it's a spin-off of the Undertaker. But Glenn Jacobs has done so much with Kane, and he's been on a freaking ride with Kane too. Like the first a decade of Kane's existence, was doing creepy and spooky shit, where he had the mask.
Yeah.
And he had a kick-ass mask. That mask ruled. The biggest mistake that WWE ever made was unmasking Kane.
Really?
Well, okay. In regards to the character, they should have never unmasked Kane. Never. At least in my opinion. Never. Because I think the best runs that Kane's ever had were masked Kane. Whether
it was going to happen eventually, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Rey Mysterio's mask has come off many a time in the last 30 years. But like OG Kane's great, and the Hell No Team Hell No Kane was great too. And he had the mask on again. So I love Masked Kane with the fake hair and the whole, and like I Kane was, especially in like the Ruthless Aggression era, or like right before it, and like the late Attitude era, they were like doing the whole thing with Edge and like impregnating Lita. And
oh my god,
ew.
That ain't it.
The Undertaker would have never done that. Like,
Nope.
Never. But they gave it to Kane, and they made Kane a creep, and then they turned him face for essentially having non-consensual sex with Lita, getting her pregnant, and then Snitsky got involved, and then Kane's like, "Nah, brother." Yeah, he's like, "Nah, brother." He's like, "Not that lady." And they try to turn him face, but it's like, "No, bro. Remember that shit you did not too long ago? Yeah, you ain't face, bro." But they, and the whole ECW thing. Okay, but Kane is how they debuted Kane, and Taylor, you mentioned the lore with the Undertaker. They tied in the lore with Kane, Faith in the Brothers of Destruction. I burned the whole family down in a fire at a funeral. It's like, what the fuck? Like, that's some crazy stuff.
Yo, I've said this. I think I said this on Really Scared. I said this on one of these shows, man. They all just kind of blur together in one big lucid experience.
At some point.
But I think in a world where like WWE's making movies about wrestlers, like they made the one about Paige, you should make an Undertaker Kane movie that doesn't break kayfabe. Show me that movie.
Yep, I remember this.
Yeah.
It was really scared.
Get a WWE Studios / Blumhouse crossover where they like cast Undertaker and Kane, and it ain't even about wrestling. It's about their backstories, and you like make a horror movie. But then like the third act, they're like, we should be wrestlers. We should compete in the arena and have like Taco Bell sponsor our match. But I want to see like the backstory of like Paul Bearer raising these two kids and like the house burning down, and like I don't even remember all the intricacies of it, but I'm like, that's the movie I want. Like, there's no greater story in wrestling than where those two guys come from. Like, that's it. That's the movie. Who do I got to talk to about this? Because I feel like this is money right here.
Oh, they're printing money at that point. Like, just make it a network exclusive. Give it like $1 million budget, and just bang. Like, if the network ever wants to do movies or other content that's not wrestling or dumb reality shows, have it be movies. Make movies in house. That'd be
Legends House.
And we gotta watch Legends House, Nick. I have not forgotten that. But my spooky gimmick. Nick, you mentioned the Boogeyman. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't at least talk about the Boogeyman for a second. Oh my God, what a character! A character that didn't really do much. He was just there eating worms and freaking the divas at the time, freaking them out. It was really weird, and his stuff with JBL. I think JBL. Oh, and Booker T. Like, and they love that man. I don't know his real name off the top of my head, but he comes back every so often.
Yeah,
and it's always a pop. You get the Boogeyman, it's a pop, brother. I'm over here. I pop myself. Like, I seen the Boogeyman, I'm like, whoa, like hell yeah.
There was that tweet recently.
Yeah,
I saw it.
Is he coming back?
Pop. No, I hope not. It was just him outside the PC, nothing too crazy. But the one I wrote down, and we mentioned him earlier in the show when talking about Raw. I feel like we'd have to talk about Bray Wyatt, both iterations of the character.
I was going to bring Bray Wyatt up.
The original Bray Wyatt with the Wyatt family and the whole like KG flies, and then do the Fiend Bray Wyatt where it's like KG flies, like Bray Wyatt. Holy God, for a guy that's been so misused, underutilized, mistreated in WWE, whether it's from Husky Harris all the way to now. By the way, Husky Harris, come on, guys. But the Fiend brought a whole new life into Bray Wyatt and his character. And just watching what he's doing now, I mean, you saw the thing earlier, the Firefly Funhouse. Like
It's so good.
you meshed Mr. Rogers and like Blue's Clues, like that type of children's programming with like Satan, and it's fantastic. And I vividly remember the Fiend showing up for the first time. And it was like, what is happening, bro?
Big moment.
It's like, that is Bray Wyatt? Like, are you kidding? And the intro plays, the lights dumb down. It's like, let me in. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And they just had to ruin it at the Hell in the Cell match with Seth Rollins. But, I mean, the character has gone so far, and it's short time of being on the main roster. And it's hard to not talk about spooky or scary things without mentioning Bray Wyatt, and even like the OG Bray Wyatt with Sister Abigail, and the stuff of the Wyatt family. Like it's cool shit. Like although they misused the hell out of all three of those guys, it was entertaining and it got the job done, and they made the most of it. As like those Shield versus Wyatt family matches.
Oh my god.
So good.
So good.
And they wouldn't even main event pay-per-views. They'd be like middle of the card and they'd be stealing the show.
Steal the show, yeah.
So like Bray Wyatt, especially the Fiend. Oh my god.
Such a testament to, because like I don't know like what metric you would use to like quantify greatest wrestler of the last 10 years in WWE, but like greatest character, greatest storyteller in WWE, I think bar none is Bray Wyatt. And the fact that because I love the first iteration, I'm not talking Husky Harris, but I love first iteration, which
Bray
is
Wyatt.
this like weird deliverance, like backwoods swamp cult leader who comes out and like just waxes poetic and preaches doomsday philosophy, and you don't even know what the hell he's talking about, but it's so charismatic and so compelling that you're like, I want to know more. I want to know what this guy's talking about. I want to know where he's going. And it was the same way with the Fiend. It was just like very sad. I feel like this always happens with WWE. It was like countdown to them screwing it up. It's like, when are they going to break the story and make us all disengage with it? And they did with Bray Wyatt. You know, it was this thing where he was out there putting on a great show. You know, he's a great promo. He's a great character, and he's a pretty damn good wrestler too. He tells a story in that ring, which I think is underrated. And he would have so much momentum, so much appeal, so much going for him, and they would keep dropping the ball on Bray Wyatt.
They would.
And then he goes away, completely reinvents himself as something totally different. Like you said, evil Mr. Rogers. It's like Tom Savini, freaking Slipknot mask demon.
You're muted, buddy.
CAL Punk, you're muted.
I want to say Tom Savini designed the Fiend mask. I think that's fact.
He did, yeah.
He did, yeah.
Amazing. So much going for it. Tom Savini does the mask. Code Orange doing the theme song. Got this crazy unique gimmick that he came up with in-house. There's no way Vince McMahon thought of that shit, right? Like he couldn't if he needed to. Couldn't if his life depended on it. And again, it was just countdown to like, when are they going to screw this up? And they keep trying. But Bray Wyatt, man, he's so underrated. He really should be. He's the most interesting thing to happen in WWE in the last year. I don't know if you would disagree with that.
I agree.
The Fiend's been huge.
And Retribution.
And Retribution. But it's so hard. We're talking about spooky gimmicks. It's so hard to make these things work. Because I think like pretty soon we're going to be going into the territory of this list where like they didn't work. Because it's a very small group that could pull this off and make it work. And Bray Wyatt should be up there with the Kanes and the Undertakers and the Mankinds. And WWE keeps trying to make that, just prevent that, it seems like. But he's too good. I really hope he gets his due. Because like the Fiend, like the character of Bray Wyatt, like everything about it's been just gold. Dude's spinning gold. And they're like dodging it every chance they get. But he just keeps going. It's amazing.
Moving him to Raw helps with that. Although I would argue that if there was anybody who could beat Roman, maybe it was him. because he's it's the character side of it more than anything else. And I thought that was where they were going to go with it. Why would you introduce, and I keep bringing him up every week, why the hell did they trademark Wobbly Walrus and give him a Paul Heyman if they were never going to go that route?
And I guarantee they just switch things up, because WWE does that all the damn time.
Oh boy! So horror wrestling gimmicks that did not work.
I feel like.
Well, I actually have a couple that I'll just run through them for the sake of time.
Yeah, I feel like we're there.
These are spooky, or I wouldn't consider them spooky, but they're definitely creepy. And maybe at least in the start. The Brood,
Gangrel,
Edge and Christian.
That was good. That worked.
Edge and Christian start, and I mean it was over. It was over as hell. Over as Rover. So gotta love the Brood. Gotta show some love to the Brood. Crow Sting.
I didn't even think of Sting.
When he first showed up, when Sting first showed up, because I mean, as Sting progressed in his career, he wasn't as creepy or brooding as he was when he first began. But when he went from "I'm a surfer dude" to I'm standing in a Raptors, I'm holding a baseball bat, please come fuck with me, and it's like, oh okay. Like, if you're like a Hulk Hogan kayfabe scared, you should be on a horror.
Same as Undertaker, where it's like that shouldn't have worked. That was literally just ripped off from a movie,
Yeah.
That'd be like, I don't even know what to compare that to. Like right now, that'd be like if a guy came out and he was just like, "I'm Spider-Man," and people would be like, "Dude, you're Spider-Man." Like that's so lame. You're not. You're not Spider-Man. He comes out and he's like, "I'm the Crow." Like, okay, I guess you are the Crow. And like he does that for another like 20, 30 years. Insane. Like Sting's one of the all-time greats, and I think he gets slept on a little bit because he didn't have that WWE run. And I think we mentioned it earlier. I think it's a travesty what they did or didn't do with Sting once they had him. Mm-hmm. But I didn't even think of that for spooky gimmicks. Definitely, absolutely, he's coming down with like the buzzard and stuff like that. He's in the raft. Amazing.
And
yeah,
it was like that's hard. That's amazing. So hard. Oh my god! I would like when he showed up at Survivor Series a couple years ago. I was like, like that's fucking Sting, dude. And Sting's like 50 years old, and I'm like, let's go.
Me too. Oh, me too.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Nick, I'm like when you were talking earlier, like these old ass men need to go, but at the same time, we're over here like that's Sting.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, like it was just like it was long overdue, and then they were like, "Hey, remember WCW? DX wins." Anyways, I just like.
So lame. God.
Ain't it? Triple H couldn't take that one damn loss. I will never forgive you for that, Triple H. Never. Never. Lame. My God.
I mean, if we're talking scary wrestling gimmicks that did not work, WCW was like just shitting them out.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
the scary ass promotion. Like Jesus Christ.
The Giant. Wait, what? Sorry.
Wasn't Chucky in WCW?
Yeah. Arguing with Rick Steiner. Funny enough.
There it is.
Freaking like WCW, they're all about the real gimmicky stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the characters were gimmicks, like they were acting like fucking plumbers and shit. Mm-hmm. But they tried to when we watched Halloween Havoc '95, what was it called? The Dungeon of Doom or some shit?
Dungeon of freaking Doom. Oh my gosh.
None of those guys panned out, with the exception of Big Show. None of them panned out. Like Kevin Sullivan was like, if anything, it ruined a career that he would have had post WCW. But my God. Like
kind of a spooky gimmick.
Who?
Right? Kevin Sullivan, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. Like
wasn't he like rumored? Wasn't he rumored to like be an actual like devil worshiper in his real life or something like that?
Probably.
Maybe.
Allegedly.
The Giant was the only thing that come out of the Dungeon of Doom. What the hell else? I mean, if you're a wrestler in the '90s, the NWO scared the shit out of you.
More ways than none.
Yeah, I don't know if you wrestled in WCW, but a Vampiro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fucking Vampiro. And he had the white face paint. That's always hard. We can't escape without talking about Broken Matt Hardy and Willow and Jeff Hardy's alter ego.
I was thinking about Willow earlier. If I should bring up Willow,
You could totally bring up Willow, and how weird that is, and how Jeff Hardy still wants to do it in WWE. Good luck, Jeff. And that inevitable Jeff Hardy Fiend rivalry. Yeah, because he's on a Raw. Jeff Hardy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so it's
Man, how's
inevitable.
he still doing this thing?
I mean, he's putting on decent matches, bro. So like, I don't
Like, it's not that embarrassing. That's what I mean. It's nuts.
Broken Matt Hardy. It saved his career.
Yeah.
It's him getting weird and spooky, for lack of a better word. I want to consider it spooky, but it's just definitely off the wall a little bit. Because
What about Kevin Thorne?
All right. So I'm glad you brought that up because I came in with some big Mordecai energy when we started this show. And like Mordecai is this one I always remember because he was so hyped. So hyped. He was like this, he had
That
these
is Kevin
promos.
Thorne.
Yeah, he had these big promos. He was bleached head to toe. Like bleached hair, bleached goatee, dude was white as hell. And his whole thing was like, I'm coming in to purge SmackDown of sinners. And he was being packaged as the anti-Undertaker. He came in for like one promo in the ring, got no heat, never had a match, which I think is so funny. Like weeks of buildup, which is the wrestling thing that happens sometimes. So like you're gonna care so much about this guy when he shows up, and then he shows up and you're like, I don't care about him. And they're like, oh shit, they don't care about him. Never mind. And then he comes back years later as Kevin Thorne, the ECW vampire.
God,
Which I don't remember much about other than him like routine dry humping sessions in the ring with his large-breasted vampire valet. I don't remember her name. Do you?
Oh God, no. Well, the fun thing about well, I say that because the funny thing about Kevin Thorne and I, was that it was very early in my wrestling love, my pro wrestling love career. And I was just starting to get wrestling figures and stuff like that. And I remember there being, and fair enough as to why, a deluxe aggression Kevin Thorne figure that was like on clearance at like Mark's or something like that. And I begged my mom to get me this wrestling figure and never got it. But like,
and you hold her against her.
And then Carlito became my first one. But it was just like, I was just like, and Undertaker was my second. I was just like, oh my gosh, for the love of God, get me this Kevin Thorne figure. And now I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Why do I want this Kevin Thorne figure?
I'm getting
that exact fig, bro.
Christmas is coming up in a big bad way. I'm getting you a Kevin Thorne toy to play with.
And I'm gonna get you Gotti again. It's fine.
I already got him. He's over here somewhere.
But yeah, Kevin Thorne was such an odd, spooky wrestling gimmick.
Yeah,
and one more before we talk about another spooky thing involving wrestling.
Yeah,
Papa Shango.
Papa.
Yeah. How could I forget?
In the house.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch too much of Papa Shango. I knew him more as the Godfather, but I feel like I can't go without at least mentioning Papa Shango or Kamala. To me, they go hand in hand.
Papa Shango.
Kamala was so odd. Like, I don't know. Were they ever? Well, we're talking about Kamala. How about Viscera? He was a vampire.
Oh, Big Daddy V.
Daddy V. But no, Kamala used to be like my cousin who got me into wrestling. He used to be one of his favorite wrestlers. I think it was just because he was just this big dude who smacked his stomach over and over again. I don't know.
So,
there was, yeah. And would that make Papa Shango Tucker?
Tucky?
But yeah, Papa Shango with his ooze and his what an interesting gimmick. There was another wrestler who did something like that.
Like, my God.
Mm.
I mean, we can do a whole another hour on odd gimmicks. We can talk about like Jake the Snake Roberts when he first showed up.
That's a spooky gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Snake in a bag. It's like, what the what? And a bit Macho Man at one time, and we're all like, yo, like Damien just bit the Macho Man. Like, you can't do that. Jesus Christ. Giant Gonzalez. Like, what the hell? Like, there's so many odd or spooky gimmicks. I think at this point it's just if you're weird, if your gimmick's weird, you're considered spooky or odd or
Yeah.
scary or something like that. But I feel like we run the gamut of spooky wrestling gimmicks, and one day we'll have to revisit some of the weirdest ones. Oh, Doink the clown.
Yeah, you can't. You can't not have
Definitely.
Doink. They ruined him pretty quick, but you can't not have Doink on there.
There's like 50 different Doinks, so you have to like specify which one you're talking about. But we all watched the movie for the sake of the program that involves a professional wrestler, and let's talk about that for our third count, baby. Girl on the Third Floor is a movie that stars former professional wrestler, at least former professional wrestler, CM Punk, aka Phil Brooks. He was credited as Phil Brooks for the sake of the movie, but he was CM Punk on Netflix, which is really weird. But before we actually talk about this film, we will be talking about it. We're going to spoil the movie.
Spoilers.
It's safe to say we'll try to go as long as we can before we get into any spoilies, but we'll let you guys know ahead of time before we start spoiling the movie. But precursor, this movie's pretty graphic and gross. So to all the sensitive words you're about to hear, I apologize ahead of time. So Taylor, against you're the guest. We had you watch this movie for the sake of Wrestle Reel, and again, you host your own show talking about horror movies. How did you think about Girl on the Third Floor?
Yeah, man, I feel like this is true. At the end of the day, this is why I'm here, right? You kind of like summoned me. We're going to talk about scary movies. You got to get the really scared guy in here.
You're damn right.
And look, I was excited when you mentioned it. I said earlier, like, I feel like See No Evil was the obvious route. You went this way. And I meant to watch this movie when it first came out because I'll tell you what, I'm a CM Punk guy. And obviously I'm a horror movie guy.
Oh, yeah,
so like,
Mark's over here, brother.
Yeah, dude, those things crossed over. And I was like, I got to check this out. And I've been waiting all this time. So I'm glad I finally could see it as a part of being on this show. Now, number one, I mentioned before we got started here, y'all picked a pretty weird movie to watch. And I credit you for this. And that's coming from me, a guy who regularly watches some pretty weird stuff. This one's pretty weird. This is coming from the great people over at Dark Sky, who, if you watch Really Scared, you know these are the fine folks who put out 1BR, a movie we've got a lot of nice things to say about over there. They put out a movie called Hosts, which at the time you'll be seeing this, we'll have already talked about or talked to the directors and stars of that film on Really Scared. If you missed it, go check it out. And they put out a whole gang of great stuff. So already a lot of momentum coming into this movie for me. Man, this thing is weird. Like, how do you even say it? So it's about CM Punk, Phil Brooks, right? He plays this guy who a married man, soon to be a father, who's moving away from the city, moving away from some sort of dishonorable life and past and time and crime time, if you will, and is setting. He's renovating this old rickety house ahead of his wife and mother of his future child, ahead of her arrival. He's renovating it so that they can start over and raise a family in this house, and it's a crappy old house. Mm-hmm. But it ain't just like patching up walls and ripping up the carpet. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in this house, right? Really weird stuff. I don't really know how to tell you how I felt about this movie.
Right.
It's definitely a riff off the. First of all, it's original as hell. I'll tell you this much. It's like a haunted house movie, but the ways in which they explore the idea and concept of a haunted house, I can't say I've really seen before. This is a horny movie.
Ugh.
I want to put it out on front.
Nick.
This is a horny haunted house movie. And like, I give it a lot of points for originality. And it's yucky. I like a little yuckiness.
It's spermy.
It's one of the most viscous films I've seen all year. And I've seen more than one. I think I dug this movie. I don't think I'm going to know until we kind of talk about it. So I'm going to pass it over to Big EM over there. Because I'm very curious to hear what both. Because here's the thing. I'm the horror movie guy, right? I watch this kind of stuff. I go to parts unknown quite often. I I don't know about you guys. You don't really step into this arena that often. So I'm really curious to see how you interpreted Girl on the Third Floor.
I love weird.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing. It's like I could do weird. And this was weird. Like
Very weird.
this, and you know, if I'm being honest, this movie was shot very interestingly. Because it felt like it was a lot of perspective from the walls, if that makes any sense. Like when CM Punk was working on the house and it would just be a shot of him, there would be so much space in between him and he's always like the center of the frame. And I don't know, it was weird to see CM Punk like this because, you know, he's got longer hair than CM Punk would usually have nowadays.
Yeah. It's kind of a John Cena cut.
Yeah, he doesn't have his beard. But what's weird is he kept the tattoos, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
hey, here's the weirdest thing about this movie: CM Punk's drinking a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, I didn't even put two and two together. Holy crap! Yeah, that character is a scummy, spermy guy. If I've ever heard.
You already got 2 spermies out of Nick.
I'm sorry. It's just like I don't know. This movie feels like it would bring a lot of weird out of me. Connor, who couldn't be on the show, compared it to something that Taylor and I hold near and dear to our heart, and went a little Murmur-esque, where CM Punk's character is definitely going crazier and crazier. I want to talk about what he does at the end a lot right now because it's an image that I can't get out of my friggin' head. But yeah, man, weird, just oddball movie.
Yeah,
oddball movie.
So I'll give my non-spoiler 2 cents, and then we'll start doing spoilies. So for the viewers that we're losing, we'll say bye shortly before. But so my non-spoily thoughts on Girl on the Third Floor. When I found out this movie was going to Netflix, I had texted Nick. I'm like, yo, I texted the group chat. I texted, who are they group chat?
Yeah.
Just for the joke. I'm like, yo, really scared of Wrestle Reel spinoff, baby. And either Wrestle Reel was just getting off the ground or it just shot its first episode. And I'm like, already thinking long-term booking, baby. And I just knew it had CM Punk in it. I remember him on the social medias filming this movie. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, that's CM Punk, you know? I'm going to go watch this movie. I like CM Punk. Like, I love me some CM Punk, bro. So I went ahead, and I hit y'all up, and you were surprisingly like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, let's talk about some Girl on the Third Floor. Yeah. So I had no idea what this movie was about. Zero clue. None. I mean, like all of us, we went into it blind for the most part. And the movie is real fluid. And I'll say this. I really like CM Punk in this. I was surprised at how much I like CM Punk in this. I honestly thought it was beautifully shot. There are some shots in this thing where I'm like, yo, that's really cool. To be specific, there's a shot of a bowling alley of CM Punk just at the end. From the pin's point of view, I would say. When the lights come on, he's right in the center of the frame. I'm like, yo, that's actually pretty cool. Like you said, Taylor, it's original as hell. I cannot say I've heard of a movie like this before, and I can say that in confidence. I mean, it was. I think I could say I liked this. I liked it.
Oh wow!
I didn't. I didn't not like it. I didn't love it either. And I'll get to why. We'll get to why when we talk spoilies. But I can say I like this movie. I didn't regret watching it. Which I mean, you mentioned that like we're not horror guys. Nick, I don't know if I could speak for the two of us, but I'm chicken shit, and I don't like horror movies. I don't like watching them because they give me a little freaked out. And go watch our Invisible Man watch along on the channel. You'll see why. But I was watching this thing. The jump scares, there's plenty.
That doorbell.
That damn doorbell got me twice. The doorbell was getting me. The subtle the marbles.
The marbles.
Those were getting me as well. There's a nice little scare that got me at the end. Well, not really a scare, just a graphic visual Nick, I don't know if we're sharing the same visual or not.
I have a feeling.
But it's oh god, the prosthetic work in this movie is fantastic as well. The makeup is nuts. Again, it was a well done flick.
Yeah.
I can't not say it was well done. I really dug this thing. I really like how it was made. It was awesome. But in regards to the actual materials of the plot and the writing, there are some things I couldn't rock with. So before we get into spoilies, thank you all so much for joining us. If you're not sticking around for the spoiler portion, we hope to see you again next Friday for more Wrestle Reel. And go ahead and follow all of us on social media. Follow all the Watt stuff. It'll be in the description. Go ahead and check that out. But let's all that fun stuff. But let's talk spoilies.
Yeah.
This movie had a lot of blood. Had a lot of black mysterious liquid, presumably shit, and a lot of
Jizz.
Sperm. It's spermy. The movie is spermy.
So from what I understand was the main girl that was in the film, Sarah, I believe her name was. When she popped up, first of all, when she showed up, immediately I was like, I know movies. I know who this girl is. That's not the word I used, but for lack of a better word, I'll say that. And I'm like, I know who this girl is. And CM Punk, immediate scumbag move is like, my wife's pregnant, but I haven't had some action in a while. I'm like,
I've earned this.
Yeah, I earned this. I'm like, are you shitting me? And proceeds to have sex with said girl, and said girl gets clingy, again, for lack of a better word. But was the girl the house?
So, and obviously now we've dived into the sloppy pool of spoiler material, the deep, viscous spoiler zone. I thought so. We learned throughout the film, that the house that CM Punk's character is trying to renovate was a brothel, some sort of strange performative brothel, and that was eventually raided, and people seem to have died in that prostitutes seem to have died in. I think that the primary ghost was the one that died and whose body they can never recover. Yep. I that was my read on it, and so she was. But yes, I think the girl in the house and the really weird woman-esque figure that like lives in the walls and like peeks out and all that. I think they're all one and the same.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah, they're all one kind of entity.
I never saw them on the same screen together.
No.
Yeah, I thought they were all kind of, sides of the same die, so to speak. Like all manifesting in different ways, like to bring out the worst of Punk's character, like reveal him for the misogynist and the disgusting, depraved individual that he truly is, so that it would then have the excuse to go ahead and murder him in the most graphic way imaginable. And it sounds like that was the scene that affected you.
I think that is probably what the two of us were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The marbles, okay, so like what a payoff for the marbles, because you're seeing this, and this thing has like a bit of a rip off The Shining, which I've gone on record saying a lot of times, one of my favorite movies of all time, my favorite horror movie of all time. But it's about this guy who's pretending and putting on a front that he's like doing better, can do better, and he's isolated, and he's left in this big empty building, and he's running into ghosts who are like, no, you're a shitty person. You're a monster. I know you are.
Oh, wow, this is awfully Shining-esque.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to prove that you aren't, and you're going to fail. And he does fail. And then he's paying for that mistake for the rest of the movie. And I do like Punk's performance in this. I'm already predisposed to liking him because I'm a fan of his work, generally speaking. And I know he's a horror movie guy. Obviously I know he's like a punk rock guy. There's a lot of like punk and like thrash, like noise music all throughout, which I thought was cool too. And this is him kind of playing. I mean, he's always been that like hard ass, like not messing around, like stick in the mud, like stubborn jerk. Like that's been his thing in wrestling too. But he's also this like just complete mess of a person. He's like a criminal. People are like serving him papers. He's cheating on his wife. He's like drinking in every scene. Still got the strange tattoo across his stomach, but he's drinking in every scene. So seeing him in a different light, and I think he pulled it off. You know, I don't know how much the script is asking from him, but I think he's given more than he need but he's giving more than he would necessarily have to. I dug him in this. Like I would absolutely say it's worth casting him in something else and seeing what else he can do too.
Yeah.
When we talk about what makes this movie unique, for me, a lot of it is visuals. Like goo. So much goo.
So
It's a
goopy.
gooey flick.
Such horny ghosts. A horny house.
That's where I think that's where the movie took. I got sucked out of the movie. So off the bat, this movie is like an hour and a half long and wastes no time getting to how creepy this house is. Right, there's no time. So they do the goop thing, like through the wall, like, oh, what's this? Like, and he doesn't think twice about the damn thing.
He's touching it.
He's touching it. He can obviously tell some of the stuff coming out of the outlet is bodily fluid, right? And I'm like, what? And he's fixing the pipe, the shit, like Evil Dead's him in the face. And I'm like, yo, like that's cool. But WTF movie, like what is going on? But the part where I'm like, this is too much. It wasn't the brothel. It wasn't the damn Evil Dead bit. It wasn't the jizz coming out of the outlet. It was the damn dog. The damn dog.
Yeah.
So the dog, right, is I fucking knew the dog was gonna be a part of this plot in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. So they're gonna have the dog ate something like a golf ball or some shit. And I'm like, oh, that's probably not gonna have any repercussions later. We see this movie it's not jump scary in regards to the main figure or the horrific disembodied or dysmorphed figure. Because when she's there, they're not like she's not creeping up on you. She's like making her fucking presence known, which is actually kind of like it's like a breath of fresh air. Because I'm so used to it being like out of screen and then it jumps up out of nowhere. Like I'm so used to that, especially after watching Invisible Man a couple days ago.
Yeah.
But seeing that she's like just coming out of the freaking closet, and I'm like, ah! Like, and looking at her face, like the camera holds on her face for a second so you can see what the hell's going on. And I'm like, that is disgusting. Cool looking, but disgusting. And the damn dog, right? They just had to put the dog in the dryer.
Yep.
Oh my god, yeah.
Did they have to? No, they didn't, but they did. Anyway, like talking about like Taylor, you were mentioning a movie before we started recording this, and how it had a certain gruesome part of this that may or may not have been the most appropriate. That's how I felt about this. I'm like, was that necessary to get your point across? I don't think it advanced the plot at all, with the exception of introducing, I believe his name was Don. Was it Don? Don, yeah. Before
Punk's friend?
Punk's character. No, Miles. Miles. God, what happened to Miles is stupid. Stupid cool at some aspects, but stupid.
Yeah,
Big
that was
picture.
kind of.
But what happened to Don and him interacting with the police, and I'm like, that's okay, whatever. But the friend, Nick, I'm glad you mentioned the friend, Miles. Yeah, it's his black friend, whatever, cool, that's awesome. I thought the direction they were going to go, especially after talking to the church lady from across the street, because not the church lady, the guy at the bar. He's like, "Are you queer?" and I thought they were gonna have Don and Miles do something, right? Because they're like, that house ain't kind of queers or something. I think it's paraphrasing what the.
Well, it's not kind of straight people.
The straight people. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
He's like
thought
checking it out. He's like, "Are you queer? Because if you are, you're good to go."
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, yo, so they're gonna make John do some not straight stuff.
Yeah.
And I see Miles, his friend. I'm like, oh, there it is. Like that's what they're gonna have him do. But nope. Sarah girl hit him with uppercutted him with a mallet, and I'm like,
Oh
what
my
the?
god.
And the visual, the skin flap off the face.
Caved his
I
eye
wish, I
in.
wish they showed us. I wish they showed us more of the face.
You want more?
As fuck as that sounds, yeah, because I'm like, it was in the dark. He's going up the staircase. I could barely see it. But I was underwhelmed at the side plot of the friend. Extremely underwhelmed because I thought he was just there to be a kill. That was his only purpose.
And that issue comes up in horror, where you don't have a lot of characters in your story, but it feels like such a prerequisite of it's a horror movie. People got to get killed in this thing. But if we kill the main character, the story's over and the movie ends. So we got to have this guy show up. I didn't like that part a lot because it feels, and forgive me for bringing it up, but it's such a tire trope I thought we've kind of stomped out, which is hey, here's the first person of color in the movie. Now he's dead. And then the story continues, And
no consequence. No consequence.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Yeah. I wish that wasn't the first thing I thought of once that character died, but it was. And he kind of comes back in a really amusing way. But as soon as that happened, I was like, man, I thought we were done writing this into our horror movies. I guess at the end of the day, maybe they wrote that character and it was we cast who we cast, and that wasn't, I'm sure that wasn't the psychology going into it. It was we wrote this character, he's gonna die, this is who we cast as it, but it just felt such it just hit the palate wrong a little bit for me. I was just man, I thought we weren't doing that shit anymore.
I was gonna say Invisible Man doesn't do that.
Yeah. Oh my god. They teased it.
Right.
They didn't do it.
Yeah. They get really close, but you can't take down Hawkman that easily, as we learned.
Not Hawkman, brother. That's my man.
Yeah. Chris, I'm very surprised to hear that overall you enjoyed this movie. I'm very excited about this.
It was definitely weird, but
right.
I didn't hate watching it. So I mean, will I watch this movie again? No. But Nick, I want your 2 cents on the visual that we were talking about, the CM Punk visual towards the end of the movie.
Is it when he cuts himself all the way down the middle or whatever?
God, yes.
His leg and his neck and all that. Yeah, that looked great, by the way.
I will give the effects looked incredible. And if they looked that incredible, then why didn't you cover up his straight edge?
He broke Edge, man. He used to be.
Well, and maybe that was supposed to be ironic. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, obviously he has the tattoo, so I can't say that it was there for irony.
Look, all I'll say is I was definitely passionately straight edge at some point in my life, and I could have gotten a tattoo, and I didn't. And I opened this up by slamming back a mug full of whiskey and cider. So it happens to the best of us.
but when, oh my god, I can't get that image of him cutting himself down the middle out of my head
and tearing the face off.
Oh, that I wasn't even thinking of that part. I was thinking of just when the marbles get in him at the first, when he's going up his leg and his neck and all that. You're right.
When he walks out of he crawls out of the closet and he has all the lacerations on his body.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't get them all out.
Yeah, I got them all. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, because that part is great because let's talk about the third act a little bit because it makes a very smart pivot. Because the thing is you don't always have to have a likable character at the center of your film. You don't need to, but it makes things a lot easier if you do. And my only real insight into this and immersion into this is he's a human being and what's happening is very scary and I'm scared as well. That's as deep as my immersion can go. But I don't really care about him. I was there's no denying he kind of deserves what's coming to him.
Right.
He's a liar and a cheat, and he's a
scumbag.
Yeah, he's real scummy guy. So they make a real smart thing, a third act, getting him out of there and bringing in his wife, who you have nothing but sympathy for at this point, because she's married to this guy. She's having his child. He's a total shithead. He's lying to her. He's deceiving her. And she shows up to surprise him. And now she's all caught up in this mess. And when we see how hostile this presence in this house really is, because she's not here like having an affair. She's not being all nasty. She's not trying to watch a brothel show. She's just here like living her life. And the house is still like, no, I'm going to get her. I'm going to go for it. And that's when we get some of the best shots in the movie, which is, or I think maybe Punk's still in it when we first get him, but it's when like the wall's getting ripped out and there's all this fucking meat, this pulsating meat.
He's hitting the damn wall.
Yeah. That's right. She sees Milo's like face sticking out and he's like, hi. I love that. This is like a weird horror trope that I don't know gets used in movies a lot, but I love the idea of a house as more than a house, and not monster house. Yeah. It's not just in the, like there's ghosts in it, it's haunted, but like no, the house is alive and it has like an agenda. My favorite book of all time is a book called House of Leaves, which is very much that. Or like there's these old creepypasta stories called like Dio Nea House or something like that, where it's like houses, living entities as creatures. And like seeing that in a movie was really cool and rewarding. Ripping out the drywall and there's like meat. It's like the house wants to fuck you, and there's fluid coming out of the shower and it's hitting you in the face. Man, Punk tolerates that stuff more than anybody ever would.
Yeah.
Like, because I bet he was like a fan of seeing that, like in other movies.
How many times would you guys get like house loads to the face and be like, you know what? I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore.
I wonder what that was. Like the jizz coming out of the outlet. I wonder what that was. Like, was it like corn syrup?
Yeah.
And like water?
It's some form of like a glycerin type like makeup or something like that.
Like, okay, for future reference, if I'm ever in any of you guys' productions of anything, and y'all need like an Evil Dead-esque like blood splatter to the face, I'll happily do it.
Okay,
just keep that in mind. Just so I can say I've done it in my life.
Yeah,
because I love Evil Dead. That whole franchise is fucking awesome.
That's a great pull. This is very Sam Raimi-ish to me.
Yes, yeah. But the third act, I love that you mentioned the wife coming in, because we barely got to see any of her until like the last half hour.
Yeah. And
I'm like, should I care about this lady too? But she was pregnant, so yes, I do. And the fact that like, so CM Punk's character was that he was like cheating on her, he's a scumbag, he's the worst, but she's took him back multiple times as she told the church lady across the street. And he's like, Liz, like I think it was her name Liz. I think I just pulled her name on my iPhone.
Like
okay, cool. She's like, Liz, I messed up again. I'm sorry. I'll change. And she's like, nah. and that was like, I was like, yeah. And the house is like, you did it good. And they let her fucking leave. And I'm like, what? Or to let her live, I'm like, what the hell?
But she had to bash some brains first.
She'd have to fucking kill the shit out of that deformed thing.
And let's shout that thing out. Very like Silent Hill Nurse to me. The design of the mouth split open and the teeth going up the head looked fantastic. I love that was his original like creature monster ghost design. I just dug that. Whenever that thing was showing up, and you like see it in the mirrors and stuff in the background, like creeping by, nobody knows it's there. Like that was like the avatar of the horny ghost house. Loved whenever that thing showed up. Yeah, bashed its green slimy brains out. Love that too.
It reminded me a little bit of like what Daniel Isn't Real became at the end.
Oh yeah. It's got
just like an odd deformity type of a thing. But yeah, the movie was just, it was odd. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
It was creamy. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh God.
It was certainly creamy. It was creamalicious.
If I could describe this movie as anything to make Chris uncomfortable, it's creamy.
Yeah.
before we go on to our high spot, so we can wrap the longest show that Wrestle Reel's had so far.
It had to be. If you brought me on, dude, like, I'm sorry. That's my curse.
I mean, Really Scared usually goes like 5 hours. So this is not an average between Wrestle Reel and Really Scared.
This is nothing.
But out of 5 Evil Dead pipes, what are we giving this movie? Girl on the Third Floor.
What was your metric they used? Evil Dead what?
Evil Dead pipes.
Oh my god! And then you froze on me. Say it one more time.
Evil Dead pipes.
Evil Dead pipes. Oh, okay. I'll probably go 3 out of 5. For like, as much as I feel like there was something to be desired as far as story and character, that's the struggle, is having a guy I don't really feel for at the center of this movie. However, his energy the whole movie is, what the fuck is going on? And similarly, I was like, yeah, dude, what the fuck is going on? And it was original. I love the visuals. I loved how weird and horny and slimy it was. I love the design of like that final avatar of the house with the teeth going up the head. And interesting ideas. I dug it. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I like it. I like it. I decided, if I liked it, talking about it with you guys, I decided I like it.
All right, Nick.
I'll kind of agree with that sentiment. I'll give it 3 creamy jizz pipes out of 5. I liked it. It was nice to see CM Punk do something, and if anything, and I was getting the vibes before Connor said it. It did remind me of Murmur, and I love obviously working on that. Just kind of seeing somebody go crazy, and obviously in the sense that he actually thinks that something is going on, and like our boy, shout out to John Maslowski in a Murmur, but just kind of an odd something's up in the house type movie. It was weird. It definitely made me cringe, but not in like a this is terrible kind of way, but kind of like an my god, why does he have so many
A lot of wincing.
Yeah, like what is up with his body? Like, jeez. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. But I'm with you, Chris. Probably won't watch it again.
I mean, yeah, and now that we know the little twists and such, we're not gonna, it's gonna be, for me, it's hard to rewatch movies I know the twist of.
Yeah.
Because like the first viewing experience is when you're immersed in it fully. It's like Sixth Sense or literally any M. Night Shyamalan movie. If you know what's coming, it's going to be hard. You're not watching the movie in its entirety. At least that's how I feel about it. But in regards to this, I don't want to sound lazy, but I kind of echo those sentiments. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 dogs in the dryer. I think that I think damn right. You're damn right.
And that's the bottom line.
Did I hit that?
You're not
You
done
did,
yet.
yeah.
Not done
Okay,
yet,
wait,
bro.
did I hit that? Yeah, I hear that.
No, that was me.
Okay, that was
you
an
hit the
accident.
Stone Cold
I hit that accidentally because I was laughing too much. I pulled a so
worked.
It's a
I
premature-
meant I was laughing too much at the I hear that. So go on. Sorry.
that was the premature Stone Cold. But we the visual, the effects, the makeup were incredible. I love how this movie was shot. Like I mentioned earlier, there were some great shots in this thing that I thoroughly enjoyed. CM Punk was actually like a decent leading man. I was surprised. I think this was his first, at least, lead acting role, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he did a pretty damn good job. Like I forget who said it earlier. It might have been Nick or you, Taylor, obviously. Like I don't know what the script demanded of him to do, if they wanted this out of him, or if this is what they expected. Either way, I was surprised at how good of an actor he was. I wish we had more time with these characters. I wish the wife was in it a little bit more before she was the focal point at the end. The originality of this thing, you can't deny. This movie's original as fuck, but oh my god, it's so weird and obscure. Literally, I was watching. I'm like, is it a Monster House? But like, an orgy, like orgy house.
Ooh, nice.
But I'm like, it is what it is. I wish we had more time with the main characters.
Yeah.
I felt like it was incomplete. I felt like the beginning was chopped off. Like the second that CM Punk's character walked to the house, he's like, "This is my house now." I'm like, "Who are you, and why should I care?"
Yeah.
I almost wish they didn't show us him fucking the girl until later in the movie. That would have been really cool as well. Us not knowing why this is happening to him, and then us later finding out, "Oh, you're a piece of shit. Oh, your wife shouldn't forgive you. Yeah, fuck you, asshole." That would have been awesome as well. But I won't be watching this movie anytime soon. At least again, but I did like it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it, and I don't regret watching it. So a crisp 3 out of 5 dogs in the dryer from your boy, the Spearmaster. So let's wrap the show. Let's do the high spot, baby.
Now,
Taylor's our guest.
who's
go
going to
ahead.
be taking that? Who's going to be taking that high spot?
All right, boys, here we go. My high spot concerns, and I thought really hard. I was like, do I have one of these high spots for you guys as I was climbing up to the top turnbuckle? And I realized it was right there. Proof was in the pudding. We were already talking about him. The best in the world. This man right here, CM Punk. I'm going to show him off again. I showed him off in the Invisible Man watch along, my CM Punk Funko Pop.
He knows I'm jealous.
Now I'm just gloating. Here he is. A vaulted pop right there. I've been a fan for a while. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I think CM Punk will absolutely come back and wrestle one more match in the WWE before it's all said and done. What do you guys think about this? And I'm not one of these guys who thinks every angle is some secret backdoor to a CM Punk return. I see that shit all the time.
Like Retribution.
Exactly. It's so embarrassing. If he's going to come back, it's going to be big. It's not, it's got to be a big deal. So I don't think every time WWE does something different, CM Punk's secretly behind it. I'm not one of those guys, but you never say never in pro wrestling. I think we got one more, at least. What do you guys think?
Nick?
So, first of all, if it ever happens, if I read it in the dirt sheets, it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Because the pop that would happen if he came back would, honestly, you talk about like figuratively blowing the roof off of a place. It would be deafening.
Got to be post-COVID.
That said,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. If the money's there, sure. And I hate to say that that's the reason, but it's just like, I don't know who would be able to do it is the issue. Because clearly his relationship with Vince isn't good. His relationship with Triple H isn't good. And Triple H is going to be the next in line.
Don't worry, I've got some ideas about this.
Money talks, and if they could ever get Ryback back, then
no,
I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I want it to happen because CM Punk is on my Mount Rushmore of my favorite wrestlers. Obviously, I don't know if of all time, but like my favorite wrestlers of all time. I got him, Daniel Bryan, and AJ Styles all on there, but it's just like I would have assumed that if they were going to ever bring him back, it would have already happened. That's just my opinion. Sure, they have that Fox deal, and technically he still works for the WWE, or he works for Fox still, is what I mean.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to pull any weight, and I honestly think you would get an AJ Lee match before you get him.
Ooh. Wow. Wow.
I want it more than any person in the entire universe to have CM Punk come back, take the mic out of Roman Reigns' hands, and tell him how much of a piece of shit wrestler he is. All right. And I know that Roman has gone out, and I think that this was like kayfabe, breaking kayfabe, and said, I do not want to face him, but if it ever happens, it happens. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't know of anybody who likes him. I think he was being serious there when he says that. Because he's kind of an asshole behind the scenes, whatever. I think he's a funny personality in that sense. Just leave the guy alone. Let him be him. I don't know. What about you, Chris?
Okay. So I'd be lying if subconsciously I said I didn't go to every Chicago show hoping CM Punk would show up.
Yeah.
It's like when I was back in Indiana, I'd go to every single Chicago WWE show because
That's right, man. You're a Chicago guy. Yeah.
I'm right. That's like Indiana, like Hammond is right there. Like I'm right there.
Yeah.
But that's the old me. But what talk about CM Punk. But no, I like to think he'd come back for one more. But it'll be just one. It won't be like an Edge type of thing where he's like, I'm back, baby. No. And funny enough, Nick, you say he won't work for Vince. I think it's the only way we get it. If Vince is still around. I don't think he'll do it for Triple H. Because I mean, you've heard him talk about it publicly, like, why the hell am I facing Hunter at Triple H at WrestleMania? It makes no sense. Stupid. So I think he has that bad taste in his mouth with Triple H. And I think if we're gonna get it, Vince, as morbid as it sounds, Vince has to still be alive. Because he's not gonna. Vince will never let go of WWE until he dies, until the day he dies. And Vince still has to be up and at him for CM Punk to come back. And it'll only be for a match. It'll be at WrestleMania or at the. If WrestleMania were to ever go back to Chicago, which I mean, it can't because they like doing football fields now. And it's cold as hell in March or April, whenever the hell WrestleMania is. But magically, if they were to get WrestleMania back in Chicago, I would say CM Punk versus Adam Cole. And Adam Cole goes over. Or someone like Adam Cole. An NXT guy, a younger guy, you have him come up and CM Punk puts him over. And I guess that's the best way to do it. Second City Savior go out in the town that made him. It'd be one hell of a last ride. But if it's gonna happen, it has to be before Vince dies. And obviously AEW tried to throw money at him. He's like, nah, damn, I'm good.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But if he wrestles, it'll be for Vince.
Chris, you've covered a lot of great points that I'm totally agreeing with. One is that if he ever wrestles again, I know he did some little indie spot where he popped up and he like had a mask on and like threw the GTS on somebody, like a guy who trained him or something like that. Yeah. But if Punk's ever going to do a real clear return, it's only WWE. Like that's makes sense. Sorry, no disrespect to AEW, but that WWE is in a league of their own. And I think CM Punk's got a taste of the big time. Nothing less is good enough for CM Punk at this point.
Yeah, money, baby.
And I agree. As long as it needs to be Vince McMahon because he has bad blood with Hunter. And I don't know if Hunter has the same philosophy as Vince, where look, Vince is a dramatic son of a bitch. He's controversial. He's not for all intents and purposes, not like the best guy. Okay. No. Burned a lot of bridges along the way. But this is a guy who got Bret Hart to show back up.
That's it.
This is a guy who got Ultimate Warrior to come back before he died.
That's it.
There is no bridge too burnt for Vince McMahon. If he looks at you and he says, there's ratings, there's money to be made, I don't care what shit we talked a couple years ago. Come on back, let's work. He will absolutely say that with Punk because he kind of had that relationship with Punk already. It was more of a Hunter thing. I agree. Vince would have no problem bringing Punk back. You wouldn't take anything less than a minute to convince him. It's all about convincing Punk. And here's the thing. Punk, I love him. Even up to now, past WWE, I think he's great. He's intelligent. He's hilarious. He's charismatic. Even past the UFC stuff, liked him in this movie. I'm a Punk fan through and through. But he's a stubborn guy. Mm-hmm. That's an understatement. And I think it will haunt him if he never main events WrestleMania. I think it might keep him up a little bit. That was the thing. There was a lot of reasons. I would say pretty much all of them justified as far as we know that he left WWE. And at the end of the day, probably saved his life in some capacity. But one of them is he didn't get to main event WrestleMania. He kept getting passed up for that opportunity. I think the big irony will be Punk will come back, I agree, for one match. And what was one of the things he hated so much as a guy putting the business on his back for years in WWE? These part-timers, these Goldbergs, your Undertakers, your Dwayne Johnsons coming back, not working all year in main eventing WrestleMania, passing him up. I think Punk will come back, and that's exactly what he'll be. This huge draw that hasn't worked all year, but comes back. He's not winning Royal Rumble. He's not in title contention, but he steals the show because he's such a big name, and he main events WrestleMania. And who I think he should main event WrestleMania against, in either his last match or their last match, maybe both of their last matches, I want to see him go one more time with John Cena.
Motherfucker.
Okay.
That's where the money's at, baby.
I think there is not a more underrated rivalry the last 10 years than CM Punk and John Cena. I know there's tons of appeal in Punk coming back and going one-on-one with Styles. I know he said he wants to do a thing with Kofi one day. I know it's a crime he never wrestled Samoa Joe in WWE, Daniel Bryan, and that we can go on and on. I would love to see him wrestle all those guys, but if he's doing one more match, I think, interestingly enough, no one brings the best of each other like CM Punk and John Cena. And that's what I want to see.
And they're both like, they've gone on record and they're buds, like they're buddies. Like they
yeah.
like each other.
Total different ends of like the storytelling spectrum. But their matches, brilliant. And Cena, look, I don't hate Cena, man. I know he's got his critics. Cena's not the best in-ring worker in the world, but he's a storyteller. He knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to put on that big fight feel. And when you put him in the ring with somebody who's going to meet him halfway, that's CM Punk. They've had some of the best matches of their respective careers against each other. Their promo work's amazing. I want to see him do it one more time. And if it means, and I don't mean Punk has to come back and win. I don't think he would care either, but main eventing one more time. Whether it's in Cena's retirement match or his or both of theirs. I know some people would think John Cena and Randy Orton should go. Like, no. Fuck that. Lame. Cena and Punk. One more time around the block. Loser never shows his face again. Something like that. All the money. WrestleMania main event. That's it, right? No title. You don't need it.
You don't need it.
You just two legends putting it all on the line, giving one last thesis on their careers and their rivalry. I think that's the money. I think CM Punk comes back, and I would love if that's the match he came back for.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Back off of that. Imagine. So say it's in Chicago. WrestleMania Chicago, back over there. WrestleMania 40, right? And you get John Cena. He made a name for himself at WrestleMania 22, I believe it was, where he won the U.S. belt. So he fucking comes out, fucking Word Life, face fucking dominance, and it's like an amalgam. It's like the fucking spinner. You can see the spin on the fucking Titantron and some real shit. He comes out with his Cubs jersey on, like a fucking Word Life, fucking do this whole thing, and then it cut the fucking other music comes on, does a little salute thing, runs down a little bit, does both. And then fucking CM Punk's music hit. Cult of Personality plays the shit live. Living Colors there. Playing the fucking song. And then he fucking comes out, walks out to the biggest pop. Shit, like the Soldier Field's going to fall into Lake Michigan. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's how loud the pop is. And like, oh my God. That would fucking rule. Will it happen? Probably not. But my God, it will fuck. Talk about a hot ticket. That bitch sells out in 5 minutes. If you announce it ahead of time,
no doubt.
Game over. Game fucking over.
Yeah.
And John Cena's like kind of, he's that part-timer vibe now too. Imagine he comes back, and he says like, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm not getting any younger. I'm moving on to this next part of my life, yada, yada. I want one last match. I want to go out big. I want to find my final opponent. And you have these guys tormenting over it for weeks. Like Seth Rollins wants to put him out, and Roman Reigns wants to put him out. Like
everybody's demon from his past, John Cena's.
Yeah.
Randy Orton puts his 2 cents in.
Yeah,
and shit.
the Fiend wants in, and they're all fighting over it. And after like weeks of hype, you just hear that static hit, and that little riff, man. That place just comes unglued.
The pop would be insane.
Be crazy. And then John Cena's just like, "Yep, that's the one.
There he is.
There he is." I think Punk comes back for one more. I think there's no doubt.
There it is.
I think who is the variable, but if it's one left, I want it to be John Cena. I want to see them go at it.
That'd be so dope. Like Styles is another great one. You mentioned Styles. The match that never happened. I mean, I would love to see. I want to see both of those guys put somebody over, because especially John Cena, when he comes back, he puts guys over. Like,
yeah.
Last time he was wrestling, he fucking put over Finn Balor and Becky Lynch in the same night. So it's like, that's awesome. Like, that's the type of shit I like to see. John Cena is playing a part-time gimmick correctly. But CM Punk beat John Cena. Both their respective matches like gone, and it can be what you just said. Like, yo, loser never steps foot in WWE ever again.
Yeah.
And CM Punk would be like, yes, please. That's
Right.
me. Oh god, that'd be so damn cool. That'd be so fucking cool. If I'm not at that match, I'm tailgating outside. Like that's real shit. Oh my god.
That's it. I know they were like Randy Orton Edge, the greatest match of all time. Like, no, this is the match you would hype, greatest match of all time. Like, this is the ending of like a generation of the brand. Right?
Yeah.
Like Punk and Cena
They
one
need
last
a whole
time.
like rebrand. WWE will never be the same after that. Never.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's my high spot right off the top.
One hell of a high spot to end the show. Thank you so much, Taylor Cleek, for coming on the program. By far, and probably will be the longest episode for a while. But my God, I'm so happy we did this. I've been standing for 2.5 hours. I have no regrets. Holy shit. Taylor, tell the people what you got going on. And we'll wrap the thing up.
Oh, man, if they're listening to this, I mean, they already know. Really Scared every single Thursday night on this channel, 8 p.m. live. Me and the top goblin counter Breedled waxing poetic on horror movies. We got great guests. We just talked to the directors and the stars of hosts. We're lining up some more fantastic stuff for next month. Not the least of which is a November 21st 12-hour live stream of all 5 Twilight films in the saga. More news on that soon to come, but I can promise you it's going to be one hell of a day. Thank you, Bill. That's about it, man. That's if they're watching this channel, they know what's up. They know where to find me. I'm not far. And thank you for having me on. This has been I'm sure you'll be thrilled to go back to a normal, like quick, clean 90-minute runtime. I
don't know about Nick, and I'm pretty sure I can echo Nick is going to echo my sentiments, but my God, this is awesome. This was a lot of fun. Were we a little long-winded? Of course we were. But
I figured it was going to happen.
It wouldn't be a Who Are They real entertainment program without it being a little long-winded. And at some facet in the show. Real talks like that, Really Scared's like that, Spin from the Reels like that. Every single show we're going along at some point or another, and we have no regrets.
Yeah.
My God. But
not a single bit.
Nick's ready for bed.
I'm always ready for bed.
My boy's tired.
Sorry.
But thank you again, Taylor Cleek. So for Taylor, for my man Nick Molbach, I am the Spearmaster, CAL Punk. And we'll see you guys next time on Wrestle Reel.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause